In this session of the Good News video course on how to find God in times of waiting, we're going to take a look at the easiest, best way to wait and to find God in the wait. The easiest way to surrender to Him. The easiest way to get our emotions to catch up with the Spirit within us. The Spirit that does trust God. The Spirit that does know that God is in charge and is working a plan for good, for our good and the good of others. And that easy way is sometimes very challenging to implement. How's your prayer life? Yeah, that's the secret to the success of this. We need to have a solid, regular, predictable, recurring prayer life. We can't do this if our times of immersing ourselves into God's presence is haphazard or only when we manage to find time for it. And that's what this prayer life is about. It's immersing ourselves into the goodness of God, into the mercy of God, into the blessings of God's, as we talked about in the last session, His atmosphere of pregnancy of activity around us. We need to enter into that immersion experience of God. We need to spend time alone with God, becoming aware of His goodness. And we have to do it every day. And the more we do it on a regular pre-scheduled basis, the easier it is to do the next day and the day after that. We need to build a sacred space within us, within our minds, our imaginations, that we can go to regardless of our circumstances and our surroundings. Now, doing this when we are alone with God first thing in the morning is the best way to do it. But once we've developed this sacred space and a familiarity with it, it becomes an easily accessible place whenever we are stressing out, whenever there's some kind of conflict going on, whenever we're finding ourselves growing impatient, or we talked before about surrendering to God and how we often take back what we've given over to God. That sacred space, when we find ourselves getting off track or losing touch with God and His presence around us, that sacred space will bring us right back to it. The sacred space needs to be something that you visualize in your imagination. Now, my sacred space is a boat, because I have found that when I'm on the water, I'm more peaceful. I get renewed in spirit a lot more quickly. The sacred space begins with me coming to this boat, stepping on the dock to the boat, stepping into the boat. Jesus is sitting there in the back seat on the deck. I visualize what the whole boat looks like, okay? And I'm not going to take a lot of your time right now describing all the details, but details are important, because the more details we have in our imagination, the more real it becomes, because our brain uses those details to begin to understand it as a real space. And even though it's in our imaginations, it's real between you and the Lord. So in my sacred space, I sit next to Jesus at the back of the boat. I lean on His shoulder. Maybe I'll cry on His shoulder. I'll tell Him my problems, or sometimes I just sit there. This boat has a cuddy cabin. I can walk just a few steps from the back of the boat and go down some steps into the galley. And guess who's there? The Blessed Mother is cooking something. So that's a little bit of what my sacred space looks like. Now let me lead you through building your own sacred space. First, pick some kind of a location and some kind of a sitting space. It might be a wide open field with lots of flowers and a blanket in the middle of the field that you sit on with Jesus. It might be a special church that you remember from your childhood, and you're sitting in a seat near the tabernacle. After you've chosen the location, imagine the details, picture the details, smell the details. For example, with my boat, I can hear the gently lapping waves hitting the side of the boat. Is it nighttime? Is it dark? Is it light and full of the sunshine? Is the sun rising? Is the sun setting? Think of as many details as you can, because that's an important part of creating your sacred space. Spend time after this video creating the space and spending time in the space with Jesus, talking to him about whatever. No formal prayers here, just like he's your best friend, and if you want, you can just sit there and be quiet. Maybe he'll say something, maybe he won't say something. But let your imagination be open to whatever might happen there. I can't tell you enough about how important your prayer life is to becoming deeply aware of God in the times of waiting. God bless you.